What is it?
It's time to go back.
Welcome.
What is up? Welcome back to Generation S. It's a podcast about growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s. I'm Dan Kemp, and joining me is the returning co-host in Lou Carnevale. Lou, dude, it's been like a long time, like a month, I think, since we last did one of these. Something like that.
It could be.
I don't know. Well, welcome back,
take.
man. Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, listen, there's a very good reason why I had you on this specific episode and why we are talking about this topic today. So today, we're just about to kick off summer officially on the calendar year. Depending on what part of the country you live in, the kids may already even be out of school. Like my kids are already out of school. I know up in New York where you are, Lou, they're still in school for, I guess, another week or so at least. And then they kind of wrap things up there. And but listen, summertime, a lot of things you associate with it from your childhood. One of those is, even if you're not a sports fan, it's got to be baseball, right? It's the American pastime. Like, Lou,
it's the boys of summer.
That's what it is, exactly. And I wasn't a huge sports guy growing up, but I played Little League baseball. I definitely watched baseball, and was a big New York Yankees fan as a kid because that's what my parents loved, and so I watched Yankee games, right? And so, but hey, you actually pointed this out before we started recording. We are in the 25th anniversary year of a very important event in baseball history, and it's the subject of our discussion today. That is the great home run race of 1998 with Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa.
25 years, that's utterly disgusting.
It is.
In so many levels.
But it's honestly, because we're going to talk about more than just the home run race. We're going to kind of set the scene for baseball in general in the late 90s. But, to me, it's like my last known memories of consistently following baseball were around the same time. This was such a landmark thing for a multitude of reasons in baseball. I mean, I'm assuming you have like solid memories of watching this as a kid, Lou.
I do. I was playing ball at this time, so you're that in between Little League and your travel team. So this is 90, like you said, 98. So yeah. I was 12, give or take. Yeah, once you get to those teenage years, those early teen years, it's no more you automatically make the team. You gotta actually try out, and some guys didn't make it. And then if you're good, you get on the travel team and you travel along to different places on Long Island, at least, or Metro New York. So this was a big thing.
Yeah.
Also at this time, the Yankees were red hot. So baseball needed this. And like you said, we're going to set the landscape of why this was. It was going to be big no matter what, but why baseball needed this and kind of look the other way. Like, oh, we know what's going on, but don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain, so to speak.
Absolutely. And before we do that, guys, just a quick reminder. I was told that if I do this twice, it's going to help my my numbers tremendously. So, guys, if you are listening to this, make sure you have liked or subscribed to the podcast on your various podcasting platforms. Make sure you're telling a friend all about it. And, again, I will remind you to do this at the end as well. But hopefully, if you're listening to this, you are already subscribed. And if not, hopefully you are clicking that subscribe button right now. All right, I digress. Let us.
Don't steal my lines.
I'm sorry. You can still have one later. It's okay. I'll let you get a digressing.
Okay. All right.
All right. So let's set the stage, man. 1998 was the year of the home run race, but let's wind the clocks back even more. Maybe about 4 years, right? We got that big blot on the history of baseball. Right? Is that, how do we call this?
Yeah, it was definitely a blip. A very bad blip. It was a strike, and it was mid-season.
Yeah.
So that's even worse, because the only other league that had a fully canceled season was the NHL in 2005. That's off the top of my head, because I had just graduated high school.
Okay.
So 2005, there was no NHL season, but it never even started. It was just nothing.
Yeah.
It was a blackout, lockout. This had a season. They were playing baseball, and they knew it was coming, and billionaires and millionaires were arguing with each other, and your average Joe that can go to one ball game a year with their kids and their family and their girlfriend and their mistress or whoever didn't get to see any ball games. So here's the first fun fact. In 1994, the two teams in first place, obviously one in the National League and one in the American League. The number one team in 1994 for the American League was the Yankees.
There it is.
Setting the tone for what's to come.
Yes.
In the National League, do you want to take a guess who it was?
I'll take a guess. I don't know if I'm right or not. I was a fan of this team back in the day. Just, I think, by default, because they were so good. Was it the Atlanta Braves?
No. I mean, the Braves are coming.
Okay. So
The
they're
Braves
still
are
not
coming
on
'cause
top
95.
yet. Okay. So I don't know.
The
that.
Montreal Expos
That's my dad's team, man.
were the first place team in the National League.
There it is. Maybe that's why he liked
At
him
the
so
time-
much, because he was a huge fan of the Expos. Honestly, the biggest reason he always gave me was it was the cheapest way to go see the Yankees for us, because when they would play in Montreal, tickets were like dirt cheap, and it was just as far for us to drive to the Montreal Stadium as it was. Sorry, the Olympic Stadium or whatever you would call it.
Olympic Stadium.
There it is.
Yeah.
Versus driving down to the Bronx, because of where we grew up, it was same distance.
Yeah.
So
he would be going towards the end of their time there for Interleague because they were National League. So I guess it was towards the end, probably more to see the Mets if just to see any New York team. But I digress. So they got it in there. The Expos and the Yankees were in first place in 94, and then just boom, like I said, billionaires and millionaires weren't getting along.
how far into the season did this happen?
Oh, it was a good portion into the season. Like it was
Like you
I
could see,
believe it
you
was
could
into
see the
some-
finish line of like, okay, these are the teams that are probably going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, you could certainly see it, but to me, it doesn't matter in a weird way. Not to sound quick to answer, so to speak, but again, we're talking about people that what the hell do they have to worry about in life?
Yeah.
If they don't want to play or this, that, and the other thing. They were playing ball and it stopped, which was different than the NHL not getting along. But then the NHL did something reversed when I was working for them in 2012. They had a lockout and then they ended it and then they did a shortened season.
Okay, so they
They
at
did
least
like an
gave a
abridged
conclusion.
season.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they didn't start this season. The season went, they didn't play their games. They had an agreement to have like an abridged season, kind of like we're not going to East Coast, not going to play West Coast. Just like you're going to play your division, you're going to play your regional rivals, and we're going to get to the playoffs.
Okay.
There was nothing. There was no World Series in 1994, which, in 2023, just think about that. There was no World Series one year. Just the marketing and the ad revenue and the TV rights and the satellite rights and the radio rights, like that must have been it must have been difficult, but now it would be even more of a disaster. It'd be terrible.
Well, the closest thing I can think of, and again, I wasn't following sports much even just a few years ago, but did they finish out the season during 2020 with COVID?
Yes, they did. They did have
Just
every
no fans.
league.
Okay.
Yeah, cardboard cutouts.
That's what it was. It was the cardboard cutouts. I remember that.
Cardboard cutouts. Yeah, they did cardboard cutouts, which was weird. But yeah, they're every league, the four major. I can't speak for NASCAR or MLS soccer or anything like that. But your big four, they did do something. They were postponed for a while.
Yeah.
But there was something.
Didn't they even and maybe it wasn't baseball, but I remember one of them piped in crowd noise too, so that if you're watching at home, you really don't notice anything.
I think it was baseball.
It was, okay.
Because there's nothing going on with baseball. With football, you want to hear the guys,
hitting each other, or
smacking into
basketball,
each other.
they're playing and you hear them on the the gym
They're
floor.
calling the plays.
Right.
They're there's some impact, and hockey is just bonkers when there's no announcers.
Yeah.
But with baseball, you needed something. My personal idea was to do something like this. Because
Like a
every
virtual.
station's but not even that, talk about it. Have again, New York, I grew up with Mike and the Mad Dog, sports talk, they like the pioneers of sports talk radio. Why not have a radio show, the radio talk show-esque during the game?
Yeah.
I don't need to hear a talking head in silence for 3 hours.
No,
so.
yeah.
They were able to get through it because, like you said, they had to do it.
So really,
there was too much money involved.
So in baseball history, and maybe they learned from the strike with COVID, okay, listen, we can't do that again no matter what. That's the only time in the history of Major League Baseball that a World Series did not occur was 94. As far in modern times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Modern times.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had some delays. There was an earthquake in Oakland and then 9/11 and it delayed the World Series a couple of days,
Right.
but fully saying there's not going to be a championship in baseball. This is the only one, in our lifetime.
Yeah.
In our mid-30s.
Okay. So the strike is in 94. So they do come back for the 95 season. They've reached their agreements or what have you, right? And they come back. And then...
Yep. And
yeah.
Well, we have a big event in 95.
Okay.
We have Cal Ripken breaks the record for most consecutive games in 95.
That's right. I remember that was sometime in the mid-90s. And of course, yeah. I mean, so honestly, there's little things after the strike that people, get into that they can get excited about. Was this like the first thing after the strike that people got excited for?
Yeah, I remember. Well, it was one of the first times I remember watching an ESPN broadcast because they were all over it. So this was September 6th of 95. It was Lou Gehrig's 56-year-old record of consecutive games played. 2,131st game for Cal Ripken. So that was the first big thing, but it just didn't captivate everybody. And I don't know why. Maybe because I mean, you could see it.
Well,
but it was just that he stood on the field and there you go, there's another game.
Well, that's the thing. And I was just going to say, so because we're going to, I mean, obviously the subject of today's episode is the home run race. It's way more exciting to watch a home run and keep track of a home run. Okay, how about we do it like this? Let's make it pro wrestling, okay? Let's go back to pro wrestling for a second here. In the late 90s, you had Goldberg's streak, right?
Yep.
And every time he beat somebody, first off, his matches were very exciting. They were quick, but they were very exciting, so the crowd was very into it. But then you would be able to keep track of how many matches he won in a row, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Compare that to, let's say, have they ever had or acknowledged somebody's 3,000th match that they've ever had?
No.
And you know why? Because once the bell rings, that doesn't matter, right? Who cares at that point? So it is obviously a very big accomplishment for Cal Ripken Jr., and I'm not downplaying that, but it's not exciting to watch. Once he's, like you said, once he's on the field, it's another baseball game. So, yeah, I mean, I can completely understand why something like that would get overshadowed just a few years later by something like the home run race. But not only that, right? I mean, you had Cal Ripken, but you also had, pretty dominant teams come into play both in the National League and the American League, and the Yankees and the Braves, right?
Yeah, you certainly did. And you had new teams also.
Yeah.
You had the Rockies and the Marlins coming out. And jumping back to the Orioles, another thing is, and I'm not knocking Cal Ripken Jr., but the Orioles won a World Series in 83. We're in 95.
Yeah.
So
it's not like they were
not
a top
tremendously
team.
long.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, it wasn't New York. It wasn't Boston. It wasn't L.A. It was not a huge nationally followed team.
Sure.
It was more of a regional team on a team that had moderate success. I mean, they were a good team. They were making the playoffs. The Yankees in '96 battled them in the playoffs. That's when the kid reached over in the outfield and
and grabbed the ball,
stole the ball
That's
out of the
right
right field. Yep.
Oh, there was riots over that, wasn't there? It was.
Yeah, there was some bad stuff. So the Orioles were a good team, but they only had that one championship in 83.
Yeah.
So they had 66, 70, and 83. So they weren't a powerhouse.
No.
So, yes, Cal Ripken, one of the greatest players of all time. I'm not saying that. But for an average person.
Yeah.
An average person that doesn't know much about baseball, then you hit the ball and you run, they're not going to go, wow, consecutive games. That's amazing.
Yeah.
For a sports fan, even a casual sports fan.
Yeah.
You're a casual sports fan. You're flipping through the channels and you go, oh, Cal Ripken's breaking the record tonight. You'd probably leave it on for a little bit.
Right.
But you're not going to go out of your way to watch it.
It's like the perfect attendance award in school, right? The only people that gave a shit about that award were the ones who won it because they're like, oh, see, I went to school sick so that I wouldn't miss a single day. Like, normal kids didn't care about that. It's just like, that's the most useless award for them, right? It's, that's the equivalent, I guess. I don't know, as far as what I can relate to, because I got the perfect attendance award a couple times. So I don't want to brag or anything, but,
There you go. That's good.
Oh, man. Well, is there anything else, after that, before we get to the home run race that's worth mentioning, or do we want to jump into kind of, the rivals in the home run race?
Well, like I said, you had two new teams had already come into the league.
Yep.
In the Marlins and the Rockies. So that was exciting in the National League. You had some bigger market teams starting to get hot in the late 90s. The Yankees were won in 96. The Braves were just dominant.
Yep.
Again, no offense, but Atlanta's not a small market, but compared to some of the other big teams,
Right.
It's a peg down, but they were dominant 95, 96, all throughout the late 90s. So you had the Braves being dominant, you had the Yankees being dominant, you had the Red Sox starting to heat up and having some really big battles with the Yankees. So everything baseball needed on the diamond in terms of just regular baseball was there. So you had the Braves in 95, you had the Yankees in 96, which is a dominant team in the Braves, the biggest market in the world in 96, a feel-good story of an semi-new expansion team in the Marlins winning in 97.
Yeah.
And so there was some, it wasn't just these random teams. It was a powerhouse, biggest market, something new and up and coming, was good.
Yeah.
But this changed it. This put things over the edge in a good way, but then also in a very bad way.
Sure. Well, and we'll talk about kind of the aftermath of it as well. So, all right. Well, listen. Let's just jump into it then. So the two participants, if you aren't aware, were Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. Mark McGwire played for the St. Louis Cardinals. Sammy Sosa played for the Chicago Cubs. Again, two teams that were not the Yankees or the Red Sox or whatever, right? There were two. I mean, because they weren't in the World Series. The Cubs.
Yeah, they have a good following, but they weren't dominant teams in the 90s.
No, absolutely not. Especially like the Cardinals. Later, I know the Cardinals won like a few years ago, but so I don't know a lot. Because again, you are the sports guy. That's why I wanted to have you on for this episode. But I knew this episode was important for us to have, especially 25 years later. Was before the home run race, were either McGwire or Sosa known as like powerhouse home run hitters even going into it then?
Yeah, McGwire certainly was. He was on Oakland, which is actually, by the way, at the time of this recording, it's pretty much a done deal. The Oakland Athletics are moving to Vegas.
Really?
Which is crazy. So Vegas just won the Stanley Cup, like, spoiler, like a week ago.
Yeah.
They got the Raiders.
That's
and
right.
When I was in Vegas, there was a big banner saying the Raiders are coming. I'm like, oh, I guess that's official. And the Oakland Coliseum is a dump. It's awful.
Yeah.
But they just got the okay that they're going to build a stadium for the Athletics. So
okay,
yeah, it looks like they're going to Vegas. But the Athletics were a good team in the late '80s. You had Canseco and McGwire; they were known as the Bash Brothers.
Yeah.
So McGwire, and he was always a home run hitter, but he wasn't this. Looking back at the cartoons we watched at this time period, also.
Yeah.
You had Batman and Superman and these guys. They looked like literally looked like boxes. Like their chests were so big, and they didn't do leg day.
Right.
It was all chest and arm.
Yes.
But Mark McGwire literally transformed into a living superhero the way he looked.
Yeah.
He looked like a pro wrestler. He looked like...
He's a big dude.
He was always a larger dude, but when he was in Oakland next to Canseco was a beast.
Yeah.
And then McGwire just grew and grew and grew, and wow, what is he doing? I want that regimen. No, you don't. Sammy Sosa started on the White Sox.
Okay.
And he was a skinny guy.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he just started to... It was more surprising about Sosa than it was McGwire. McGwire always hit home runs.
Yeah.
So, but not to that extent where he's starting to hit 40, 50 in a year and he's approaching this magical number. Sosa was the bigger one. That was he was the more of the surprises out of the two.
Yeah.
But also, Sosa played at Wrigley Field, which has the shortest porch, so to speak, to hit a home run. He was playing in the smallest ballpark at the time also.
Yeah. But he was hitting them in the away games too, right? I mean...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but certainly that's like playing at Yankee Stadium. You get that short right porch and right field for Aaron Judge to hit it.
Right.
It's going to be easier when you have friendly confines.
Sure. And absolutely, yeah, that makes absolute sense. I would say, like saying, picturing them in my head between the two, I would say McGwire looked more like that stereotypical, like as you put it, like superhero. I feel like Sosa just looked like I don't know, he didn't look like remarkably physical, like a physical specimen or anything like that. But I guess he did get bigger.
He did. If you look at, because the amount of baseball cards I got during this era, and probably a lot of guys our age, just so much. Again, because if you're in Atlanta, you're going to want to buy the baseball cards because your team is good.
Right.
You're in New York, you don't want to buy the cards, your team is good. And then regardless, McGwire and Sosa, like every card you could possibly get. You see cards, and now you can see photos online, obviously, of Sosa in a White Sox uniform and a Cubs uniform. There's a difference.
Okay. Gotcha.
But yes, like you said, McGwire was still that much physically bigger than Sosa.
Yeah. So what do you think it is? Because again, I'm just looking up stats here. So McGwire, I think, hit 52 home runs in '96 before this big race. So he was already, as we talked about, like a kind of a powerhouse. What do you think it was? Do you think Sammy Sosa just decided, I'm going to start hitting more home runs? Like, what do you think kind of like set that off? Was there something that set it in motion?
Money.
You think that's what it was?
Money.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. 100% was money. I mean, back then they weren't testing for any. What's the term now? We can't say steroids.
PEDs.
Anymore. PEDs.
Yep.
There we go. Pinch poke, you owe me a Coke. Okay? And you're in Atlanta, so you can give me a Coke.
Oh, absolutely.
It was money, and they weren't being tested. I mean, you're being tested now, and you get suspended, but it's...
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not condoning cheating, but at the time, why not?
Well, if it wasn't considered cheating back then. Well, so
it wasn't. It was frowned upon,
Well,
but it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
They
was
weren't
like,
testing.
It was. Yeah, it was like under the not like under the rug if it happened or whatever. It was like don't ask, don't tell, or you know what I mean. Let me ask you this, because again, my memory is fuzzy from 25 years ago. Go figure. I know there was controversy with Sammy Sosa over using a corked bat. Was that during the home run race, or was that a different time?
Oh my God, I forgot about.
You
that.
forgot about it too? Well, then I'm not gonna get.
I think that was after the race.
Okay, because I remember that was a big thing too. Yeah,
but it wasn't many years. I think it was a couple years off the top of my head. Don't come out with pitchforks. I want to say 2000.
Okay,
like he was still. It was. I think it was after 98.
Yeah,
but it wasn't that far removed. He was still hitting these home runs. Everybody went, "Wait, what's going on?"
Yeah.
So I forgot about that. You're right. He had a cork bat and he got busted for PEDs.
Yeah. Whereas, well, I mean, you know, so. All right. As far as, I guess, let's just jump into the 98 season now. As far as the state of baseball in 98, the Yankees were dominating. Who was, I don't even remember, like on the National League side, was there a dominant team? I mean, it wasn't the Braves anymore.
It was still the Braves.
It was? Okay. Because I know they weren't in the 98 World Series. So by the time the series, like, they
it was
joked.
It was the Padres.
It was the Padres
that made us.
Okay.
With Tony Gwynn.
That's right. Yeah, we were talking about Tony Gwynn. So yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so that was a kind of a fluke. It was like, I think it was the only time the Padres, again, at least in our lifetime,
modern
the Padres
history,
have been to the World Series. Yep.
Okay.
Tony Gwynn, Trevor Hoffman, things like that. Yeah, it was on the field. That's who they wanted. You still had Ken Griffey Jr. doing his thing in Seattle.
And the Mariners, yeah, yep.
Yeah, so the Mariners were a good team, but the face of baseball was shifting to, I mean, I don't want to be a homer, but to me, it was Jeter.
Yeah.
He wasn't there yet, but it was going. Like, Griffey was like your mid-90s. By the late 90s, it was kind of transitioning because of the World Championships into Jeter.
Yeah. What about Alex Rodriguez, though? Because I feel like Alex Rodriguez was also coming up pretty quickly at this point.
He was
on the
around
Mariners.
the same time. Yeah, the Mariners should have won a World Series.
Yeah.
They beat the Yankees in '95 with Randy Johnson and Jay Buhner, Edgar Martinez, Ken Griffey Jr. I'm going to get all these names out because probably not going to talk about it again.
I forgot about Edgar Martinez. I remember him from Boston, but you're right. He was on the Mariners.
Fun fact about Edgar Martinez. Mariano Rivera has said the toughest batter he ever faced was Edgar Martinez.
Really? A pitcher?
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're thinking Pedro Martinez.
Oh, shit. You're right. Yeah, not Edgar Martinez. That's why I was like, oh, yeah, boss. Sorry, never mind.
It's okay, but he did play for Boston. Edgar Martinez was the DH in Seattle.
Okay.
And I would say probably if Mariano had to pick the toughest pitcher to go against, a fellow pitcher, a starting pitcher probably would have been Pedro, especially during
the
late 90s.
I just remember Pedro Martinez was known for like having freakishly long fingers. Like that was like a thing.
Yeah, he does. Now you mentioned, because he's on TBS now and he has like really long.
He's got really big hands. Well, that's how he's able to control the ball so well when he threw it. Is because he just wrapped his whole freaking paw around it.
Or he could just take his hands and wrap it around Don Zimmer and just throw the old man to the ground.
I mean, if he needed to do that, that's what he had to do, obviously. But yeah,
that's how that rivalry went. It was great stuff.
Yeah,
but the baseball was doing better with who they wanted to do good.
Yeah,
as dumb as that statement just sounded, it was terrible English. But something was missing. They still weren't able to get back the people that said, you know what? Screw you and your millionaires and your billionaires. And this was a time period that they said the NBA and especially the NFL really exploded in ratings.
Yes.
Really exploded in ratings because the people that weren't watching baseball were just waiting.
Yeah.
They were waiting for football to start.
Yep.
So, yeah, people were not happy, but this changed it.
At what point, and again, because I don't remember, and hopefully you do, but at what point in the season was it clear, like, oh, shit, we got something big on our hands here, like with McGwire and Sosa?
Probably around the All-Star game. And fun fact, I don't have this in front of me. I am fairly certain that Tino Martinez won the home run derby in 98. It wasn't McGwire or Sosa. So that also goes for PEDs because sometimes when you take PEDs, your what's the right word I'm looking for? Not your metabolism, but you get tired quickly.
Sure, yeah.
More tired quickly.
So you're not cranking out homers that many in a row because, yeah, you're like you said, you're gassing yourself up. Or gassed at, whatever.
I'm fairly certain. I'm going to take a look here. Tino Martinez, home run derby. I'm 90% sure. Yes.
He won it.
Tino won the 98 home run derby.
I think I remember who won the 99 home run derby, and it wasn't Tino. I think it was...
Who was that?
It was Jim Tomei, I believe.
Maybe.
I think maybe it's 2000. I remember he won one as well, and I was surprised because I think McGwire was in that one. Ken Griffey Jr. was in that one. And I remember it was Jim Tomei. I just remember he looked like my high school science teacher. So that's why I remember Jim Tomei for some reason. But anyway, so you would say it's around maybe the All-Star game that they're like, okay, these guys, whoa, let's look at the stats here. These guys are up there.
Let's look at the projections.
Yeah, and all of a sudden,
that's probably what they were doing.
Now because I don't remember, were McGwire or Sosa on either of the All-Star teams?
Oh, yeah, they were definitely.
They both were. Okay. All right. So
yeah, 100%.
And then after that, people were just like, all right, let's just start checking them out. And then, I mean, because you got to think, at the end, when all was said and done, McGwire cranked out 70, Sosa hit 66, so it was obviously very close. Like, they were pretty much hitting one every game, if not every other game, right? At that point, It was like a foregone conclusion.
The other thing was, we're in cable. Everybody's got cable now.
Yeah.
We're in 98. Everybody's got cable. So ESPN is all over this.
Yes. Oh, I remember not even just that, but like waking up and watching just like my local news station. The first thing they would talk about, regardless of, even if it wasn't a sports segment, they would, if somebody hit a home run the night before, they would show that footage. Like that was like, it was a huge deal. I mean, we talked about it in school. I remember my parents were, they were big into selling like baseball cards on eBay. They were selling a ton of McGwire stuff. I remember they bought a bunch of like McGwire bobbleheads and Sosa bobbleheads to sell because they were doing really well. We had like a cereal, like a Wheaties box with them on it. Do you remember that? Like they were on the Wheaties box for a little bit there. So
yeah, of course they were.
I mean, it was being talked. So like, well, let me ask you. So in school, like, was that for you guys as well? Like, were you guys talking about like, all right, who's going to hit the next one, or were you doing predictions on who was going to end up finishing with the most?
Oh yeah, yeah, because I was playing ball at the time too.
Yeah,
so we were definitely tuned into what was going on, and you had to. If you're playing baseball and you're not in the know of what's going on and who's doing what,
right,
then yeah, you're kind of left in the dust.
Who were you pulling for? Do you remember?
I'm a Yankee fan, so I was hoping for nobody.
Yeah, but at that point, it had to be one or the other.
That comes short.
It had to be one or the other.
I don't think. I would say probably McGwire.
Yeah,
because my dad's justification would be, we're Yankee fans and they play in the American League, so root for a guy that plays in the American. No, they were both in the National League. So maybe he went with McGwire because he was in Oakland at one point.
Maybe
that's why. But I still think even my dad was like, I hope nobody gets it.
Yeah, just because
I hope they just kind of fall flat. Yeah, and the record stays.
Yeah, but
if my dad had his way, Judge would have broken it last year.
Well, that's fair. Yeah, because overall, right? Bias aside, you have to admit, like, this was like if it stopped soon, I don't think it necessarily would have derailed the momentum they had built up at that point, but it certainly would have maybe slowed things down a little bit, leading into the end of the season, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a fun time.
Yeah. So, and then because I remember, they were back and forth for a while. I forget at what point where like it's because, I guess if you think about it, McGwire only won the overall by about 4 home runs, so they were pretty much neck and neck, and then McGwire pulled ahead near the end. But how far into the season did I mean, was it like just before the playoffs or whatever? Like, when did this finally kind of come to a conclusion?
It was towards the end of the season. I do remember, if memory serves me correct, I think the home run breaker by McGwire was a line drive to left. And see, here's the things that stick out. It's weird. I remember in St. Louis, there was a huge like advertisement for McDonald's, and they called it Big Mac Land.
Oh, for like Big Mark McGwire.
Yeah, so it's funny how you remember things like that. I remember Sammy, when he would hit a home run, used to do like this little twinkle toes things. He used to like jump up and like click his heels in the air as he ran.
Oh, I actually do remember that. Yes,
you do remember that.
Do.
So they were. It's funny how you remember weird things like that. I remember Sammy Sosa got a baseball game like the following year. Sammy Sosa slamming softball or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I don't remember that.
And it was so bad. And the only part of the commercial I remember is like he catches the game on PlayStation in his glove. He goes, "It's so real."
Oh boy,
that's it. That's all I remember.
Yeah, but
everybody was excited. But I mean, baseball was most excited because they were making a crap ton of money.
Yes,
so much money, hand over fist with money. And the only way you capitalize off of that, it's not capitalize, you beat that, is, again, the number one market is your world champion again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So 98 changed everything. And the thing is, I don't know if MLB knew in 98 what they were doing, but it kept going.
Yeah.
The home runs didn't stop. The records weren't broken again.
No.
Not like that. You didn't have a chase like that, but
I mean,
well,
you look
I
at
take that back.
of...
You did with Barry Bonds.
Well, and that was, but how many years later was that at this point? Like 2009, 2010, right? I mean, it was...
That was a good amount of years later, but it wasn't a chase. It was just Bonds.
It was just Bonds by himself. Yeah.
It was Bonds by himself, and by then, people pretty much knew about PEDs. They knew Bonds was on it.
Right.
Bonds was an asshole. Can I say asshole?
You can say asshole.
Bonds was an asshole.
Yeah.
On and off the field. Nobody liked him.
Yeah.
At least people liked Mark McGwire.
Yeah. And Sammy Sosa,
people,
right? I mean...
Yeah, till Sammy Sosa decided that he couldn't understand and speak English.
Oh, really? Okay.
When he was in front of the grand jury. But other than that, and he also dyed his skin to look like Michael Jackson a little bit. But whatever.
See that,
yeah, but Mark McGwire was on an episode of The Simpsons at one point.
Okay.
Like, everybody loved Mark McGwire.
He was America's sweetheart.
Everybody he was. He was the American boy.
Yeah.
He was what America was all about. Big muscles, big home runs, the chicks dig the long ball. Mark McGwire was the guy, and not so much. Well, yes, but still, yeah, baseball turned an eye to this.
Well, and so I mean that's basically the race in a nutshell. McGwire ended up pulling ahead. I know Sosa had a pretty big comeback, and people were like, "Oh, he might get it," and then McGwire kind of pulled ahead at the end. And I remember again waking up, watching the Today Show at 7:00, and the first video clip they show is him hitting the home run. Right, it was a big deal, and there it is. All right, cool. All right, now let's go back to focusing on the Yankees again, right? Because you know that at that point, it was pretty. I don't want to say it's a foregone conclusion, but you knew the Yankees were either.
Oh no, 98 was a foregone conclusion.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah,
the Yankees were. That was the year. Well, hold on, I got my data right here. Wait a minute, hold on. I believe it was a. So not only was it the 75th anniversary of Yankee Stadium in 98, and with regular season and postseason games combined, the Yankees finished 75 games over 500. Their total record for the year, 125 wins and 50 losses.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Foregone conclusion, they were taking it.
Tony Gwynn, before he passed away, he didn't say this during 98 World Series. He said when he walked into Yankee Stadium for Game 1, he realized, we're not going to win this. He didn't say it then.
Did he mean the series or just that game?
Either way, you don't want to feel that.
That's fair. Yeah, when you walk in knowing, okay, we're probably not going to win, but let's try our best.
They did. They tried.
Yeah.
They got swept.
All right. Well, listen. Let's jump back to the controversy. We've been touching on it kind of throughout this discussion.
Yeah.
But after how soon after was there the big controversy around PEDs, steroids, whatever you want to call it? Was it like later at the end of the season? Was it next season? I can't remember when, but I remember it was a big deal.
It was always there.
Yeah.
After the season, it was there. There was a stigma about, because again, if you had common sense and you just looked at these guys,
Yeah.
you don't get that big that fast. In general, as you're getting older,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, because these guys
I mean,
they weren't young.
But again, they're professional like top tier professional athletes with millions of dollars and professional cooks and professional trainers.
Right.
But again, the point of Sosa just kind of coming out of nowhere and doing this, and then there was other guys too. There were other guys that were nailing home runs. It was the long ball era.
Yeah.
It was all about that. I mean, Griffey's body didn't change till end of his career because he was getting bigger because he was getting a little bit older, like everybody normally does. But Griffey's body never changed. You know, the only persons that was more of a poster boy for steroids in terms of body appearance was Barry Bonds. When you look at Bonds when he was playing for the Pirates, he was a skinny malink.
Yeah.
And then his head like doubled in size when he was in San Francisco.
Yes.
It's like kind of like The Rock, but we won't talk about The Rock taking PEDs.
Right.
Hey, come
Well,
on.
the only other one I could think of, like, again, we already touched on him, but was like Jose Canseco, I feel like was another one that was like just a...
Oh, yeah. Canseco, 100%.
Yeah. Or Jason
Rafael
Giambi.
Palmeiro
Jason Giambi was another one, too.
Yeah. Rafael Palmeiro was another one. They were all doing it. They were all... If you were hitting home runs in that era, you had to.
Yeah.
If you were born on a team to hit home runs, you had to take the juice to keep up.
Yeah.
See, but the thing is, in the 90s, the Yankees didn't have a home run hitter.
No, because, well...
The closest thing they had was Tino, and he hit maybe 30, 35, I want to say.
Well, and that's the thing is because in baseball, like, their home runs are exciting, but, like... I mean, again, from playing Little League, they always told you, don't try to hit a home run. Try to get a base hit. Those win you a lot more games than home runs do. You know what I mean? So... that was...
But they don't move your jerseys.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah, there was
right.
a lot more Sammy Sosa's jerseys as a home run hitter in Chicago with the Cubs than Sammy Sosa hitting singles for the White Sox.
Well, that's a good point. But, you know, what about, you know, okay, then here we go. Sammy Sosa jerseys versus Derek Jeter jerseys.
Derek Jeter has more rings, though.
Well, and that's...
Derek Jeter has a ring. I
at
don't think Sosa has any.
Yeah, but at that point, he didn't have any, did he?
Then 98, yeah, he had.
Did he have one? He had the one from the year
and
before?
then he won, yeah, 96, and then he won 98.
Okay, yeah. That's right. All right, I do remember that. Yeah.
He was on his way. He wasn't the guy yet for the Yankees or for Major League Baseball. I think with Jeter, when 2000 rolled around, he was the guy.
Yes. Oh, absolutely, he was. Yeah, everyone knew that, though.
Yeah.
Like, to the point where even, like, Boston couldn't hate on him when he retired, right?
Well, I mean, Boston can... Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Ortiz. When Ortiz retired, the Yankee fans went, thank God he's gone.
Right? Yeah, because he just...
Good job. Okay, yeah, now get the hell out of here.
Yeah, I guess
there is a little measure of respect.
Yes.
But Ortiz got busted for steroids, too.
Big Papi, yeah.
Or the cap was... Somebody was with, like, the cap wasn't sealed all the way or some BS like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. If there's smoke, there's fire. You're a big dude. That's one thing. But you're belting out home runs like this.
Yeah.
And you're like, the worst was, I'm going to go on a soapbox for a second. I'm a Yankee fan. I'm going to go on a soapbox for a second. Mike Piazza was another one.
Yeah.
But he never failed a test. He was guilty. He legitimately did not make the Hall of Fame in the first attempt because they thought he was on steroids.
Yeah.
He never failed a test. He was never, I think it was the Mitchell report, was like the big to-do about steroids users. It came out and ESPN got it or Fox or something like that. One of those outlets.
Yeah.
He was mentioned in it or it was alluded to. He never failed the test.
Okay.
He was just a big guy that hit home runs. He played in New York for the Mets. He was on the 2000 team, so he got spotlight. And he didn't fail anything.
Yeah.
But he was not let in the Hall of Fame right away as punishment for, we think you were.
Allegedly, yeah.
Allegedly. So there were some guys like Piazza that got the look of like, no, but then David Ortiz is still beloved. But again, he won championships, especially for Boston.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to be remembered forever, but I don't know. I mean, I like when you go to the Baseball Hall of Fame, there's asterisks next to these guys.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you know, I was talking about Yankees had no home run hitters. We had steroid users. Roger Clemens.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
In a mental case.
I remember
Threw
that.
a bat at freaking Mike Piazza.
Yeah, I do
In the
remember that.
2000.
Yep.
And the 2000 World Series. So we had our own guys, but I don't think they should be in the Hall of Fame, which is
So
a never-ending conversation.
I did want to ask you about that, is as far as steroids in sports, but baseball, because we're talking about baseball. So do you feel that anyone who has used and is confirmed to have used steroids does not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame at all?
Correct.
Okay.
I think they can be mentioned exactly the way they are, which is an asterisk.
Yeah.
I don't think it should be eliminated, but it needs to be known that, McGwire was on the juice, Sosa was on the juice, Barry Bonds was on the juice. Aaron Judge, you hear that? That's me knocking on wood. First of all, I want him to come back and play.
Yeah.
Get off the injured list. But for all intents and purposes, he was clean last year.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So to a purist, Judge broke the record. That's how they marketed it last year. He is the American League home run record holder. That's how Major League Baseball did it. To a pure fan, like, screw that. No. He's the guy.
Yeah.
He's the guy because, again, Sosa, McGwire, Bonds were all National Leagues. So.
And they were, they
I
were
don't
national
think
and not natty.
Yeah. They should not. I don't think they should be in the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
No.
That's fair. So let me ask you this. Does the whole controversy after the fact with steroids or PEDs, again, whatever you want to call them, does that ruin the thrill of remembering the home run race of 98 for you?
I mean, there's still an immense level of talent to do what those guys were doing.
Yeah.
Even with steroids. Hand-eye coordination, being in tip-top shape, playing every day. Again, we're talking 98. There's no DH in the National League.
Yeah.
So they want to bat. They got to play the field.
That's right.
So, it's not getting injured, staying with your diet, your exercise, regardless of whatever else they were taking. There's still a level of supreme talent there.
Yeah.
It is more like a kickoff of what is going to happen over the next 10 years or so, give or take. I don't dislike it because it was such a fun time, but also I watch and I go, that was great. Who won the World Series that year?
That's right.
I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm not trying to be a jerk because I guarantee you, if the San Diego Padres won that year, you know what their fans would be saying? That was great. Who upset the Yankees that year in the World Series?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like the Patriots in their undefeated season. They undefeated season, went right to the undefeated season. The only other team to do that was the Dolphins, and I want to say 72. Yes, but who won the Super Bowl that year? Oh, it was the Giants. Well, who cares? Because the Yankees' record of 98 for most wins was broken by the Mariners in 01. They didn't even make it to the World Series that year. Who cares?
Yeah.
But it's a team element. Those guys made their money, and off they went to the bank.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. All right, man. Well, listen, I know we didn't think this was going to go that long. I mean, we went almost 45 minutes
lied.
here. Honestly, normally we go close to an hour. We're at 45 minutes. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on with this? I feel like we've covered a lot of it because it was a big deal. But again, it was a thing that happened one summer 25 years ago. I mean, I feel like we've done it justice.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That is, and all the video games that came out during that time too.
Yeah, that's when I remember playing the most baseball video games. Like All-Star Baseball on, or no, it wasn't All-Star. It was Triple Play 99 on the PlayStation. That was my first next-gen console, next-gen for the time console baseball game that I owned. Because I had Sega games that were baseball and Nintendo and things like that as well. But yeah.
That was a good era for baseball.
It was. I mean,
in terms of games.
I don't know if it's because that's when we grew up, but it's when I have the fondest memories of baseball is this time period. Like I honestly couldn't tell you who won the World Series for the last 15 years consistently. I could not tell you, except maybe one.
You know the Braves won.
I know the Braves won. I know the Yankees won a couple times. I know the Royals, I think, won once.
The Yankees haven't won since 09, since we graduated.
Are you
college.
serious? I thought they won a couple years ago.
No, they didn't.
Okay.
Because Houston was banging on a trash can. So, fun fact, where I get my haircut, they got all sports decals on the wall.
Yeah.
Except for one team, the Houston Astros.
Oh,
Do you know where their logo is?
Where's that? In the bathroom?
It's on the trash can.
It's on the trash
No, it's on the trash can. It's freaking great. So, how about this? We're talking about the home run chase of 98,
Yeah.
talking about the Yankees in 98. Something even more remarkable than... I see you smiling. You know where this is going. More remarkable than the home run race. The Jets went to the AFC Championship game, but they lost.
My God. But they made it to the championship game, Lou. That's
They
huge.
made it to the AFC. They were one game away from the Super Bowl, but they ran into John Elway and the Broncos. So 98 was a good year for New York sports.
New York sports
those
team.
two.
Well, I would say, what about the Rangers? They weren't doing good in 98, right?
They lost in the Eastern Finals in 97. The Islanders were just, oh, good Lord. Knicks, okay, they were okay. That's it. I don't count Buffalo. Yeah, I don't count Buffalo. There, I said it. Take that, Josh Allen.
All right, guys. Well, then, listen, that's going to wrap it up here. Well, hey, before we go, let's just remind you all to check us out, not only in podcast form, which I've already asked you to do, and I will ask you to do again. Make sure you like and subscribe and share this podcast with a friend, but also to check us out on our YouTube channel, because we've got some pretty great stuff going there. A lot of it's around Power Rangers, but we're starting to get into some other cool stuff. In fact, I do want to plug a new video series I just started on there called Generation S Pro Wrestling, where you get to see Lou and I do color commentary on recorded simulated video game matchups featuring your favorite 90s icons. They are true throwback throwdowns. Super excited. We had a Father's Day TV Dad Battle Royal this last episode.
I got a great idea.
What's that?
We should have Mark McGwire versus Sammy Sosa.
Oh, yes. Okay. We're going to go ahead and we'll throw them in a ring and see who wins in a traditional squared circle contest. I like that.
Ooh, that should be a barbed wire match.
A barbed wire match? Why is that?
I don't know why. It's just because steroids and needles and blood. It's just be a barbed wire.
Okay.
I'm just gonna say that. I'm not going any further.
All right. We'll make it work.
Keep it at that.
All right. So yeah, make sure you're checking us out on YouTube. Also, make sure it'll be in the link in the podcast description, but also on our YouTube channel. If you want to support the show, we don't have a Patreon or anything set up yet, but we do have some fantastic merchandise. We've got some great shirts. We've got some stickers, some coffee mugs with different logo variants. So really, there's a logo for everyone on there, guys. And if you're part of Generation S, you liked something about the 90s and 2000s, and chances are I've probably made a shirt that reflects that. And if not, and you've got requests, let us know on YouTube or on Facebook, whatever, and I'll do my damnedest to make it into a cool-looking logo that features Generation S. So with that, Lou, thank you so much for coming on, man. I really missed you. I'm glad we could do this again however many weeks later, so thank you.
Yes, it was fun. Thank you for having me.
And that's it, guys. Have a great summer, and tune into next week. We'll have another episode next week, and until then, we will talk to you soon.
Goodbye.